Hey there, good afternoon everybody. Welcome to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So we're back with the other prog band war. So basically this is a series of episodes we're going to do for the month of September. So there'll be there might be as many as 30. Anyways, there's 32 bands involved in this this tournament. All of them pretty obscure bands. They're not common named prog bands that you will hear every day. Even some of the lesser bands that people think of as not common, like Camel and Gentle Giant, they're not in this as well. So it's all pretty obscure bands. A lot of them, some of them I know, some of them I've heard before, some of their stuff I've listened to, but for the most part there's a lot of bands that I haven't listened to here, and there's a lot of bands with their music is in a different language, quite a few Italian ones as well. And these are all bands that Ben selected for the tournament. So he's put the battles together, he's picked the bands, put the battles together, and my job is to listen to these albums, talk a little bit about each album and what I like and don't like about it, and then kind of pick one based on that criteria. And when we get to the end, there'll be two left, and someone will be crowned the other prog band champion. So it's all in fun anyways. To me, it's just an opportunity really to get to listen to some bands, force myself to listen to some bands that I probably would keep putting off because I got something else to do or some other thing to do. I always have something else to do. There's never a moment of leisure time in my life for certain. So anyways, just want to make sure that nobody is going to give me the phone call in the middle of this video, which is usually what happens. They don't phone all day, and then as soon as I start making the video, out of the woodwork they come. So the two bands today in question for this battle are Mystery and the album The World Is a Game, released in 2012 on Unicorn Digital Records. The other band is and they're also, I forgot to mention, I believe they're Canadian. Could be wrong, but I think they're Canadian. The other band is a Spanish band from Spain called Medina Azahara, and their self-titled album released in 1979, and it's on, I believe, the CBS label outside of Spain. It might be on a few other labels inside of Spain. I don't know 100%. So my goal wasn't to get all the information on the album like I usually do on Look Back at a Classic Rock Album. Just wanted to give you some kind of idea where these bands are coming from. They're both prog bands, of course. Some of them are a little heavier than others, but overall, a couple of good choices here that Ben's given to me. I listened to both albums from start to finish. For me, there was a clear winner, and I'm not going to say who it was just yet, but there was a clear winner. But you'll probably figure it out by my discussion about the two albums. Okay, so the first one, we're going to start with Mystery, since that was the band that Ben put first on the list. So, and then I'll do the second band, which was Medina Azahara. Okay, so the first band, some of you may know this band because of the singer Benoit David, who sang for Yes, but he is one of the members of this band, Mystery. So the album overall, it has a cover. The cover art of it is a Ferris wheel album cover. So it's a Ferris wheel, but definitely got a prog element to it. Kind of a neat album, I think. So overall, there's quite a bit of guitar on this album. A lot of acoustic, some album that is some guitar that's kind of in that acoustic mode but played on electric, so it's toned down. And then the third one, sorry, I think there's a bird up top making noise. Anyways, yeah, and then there's some definite guitar solos on this album, some pretty decent stuff. Strong at points, nothing out of the ordinary here though. Basically just prog guitar solos. They have that kind of slow, melodic, almost Pink Floyd-ish sound to some of them. I think there's definitely a Floyd-ish sound to his guitar parts on several of the tunes. There's a couple of pretty heavy tracks on this as well. The second track, if I remember correctly, I didn't write the name of it down. Pretty heavy track. Strong, frontal, almost, I was going to say metal, but I don't think it's really metal. It's probably just hard rock is about as good. So you got this kind of hard rock prog song. You know, it's pretty decent song. Lots of atmospheric keyboards on this album, lots of synthesizers. It's almost dominated by these two instruments throughout it. They cover a lot of the background, fill in the noise, but to me it's at the edge and maybe a little bit past the edge of being a little bit too much. I don't enjoy that really heavy synthesizer keyboard part that a lot of prog bands like to jam down your throat, so to speak. What else can I say about this album? The vocals, of course, are really good. I know this guy sang for Yes, so there was probably a tendency to pick somebody who sounded somewhat like John Anderson, or at least be in the range, and he does have a hint of that kind of vocal sound to his music. But I actually, as strange as this might seem, I've never actually said this before, I think he has a definite more Geddy Lee sound to his voice. And I generally don't think that way about any other vocalist. To me, Geddy Lee's a very unique sound, especially his early. Very few people could hit those highs that he had, and he had almost a vibrato sound to his voice. This guy has a little bit of that going on here, and I was kind of surprised that came to mind while I was listening to him sing. Again, the keyboards are very forward in this, and the synthesizers are very forward, almost to the point where they drown out some of his vocal parts, which I think is a mistake, in my opinion. I think it's a mistake because this guy has an excellent voice, and he should sound clearly, he should get a clear sound from him, but I think the keyboards are overplayed in a lot of areas on this particular, quite a few of his tracks here. What else can we say about this album? I think the best song is probably that one, the heavier song, even though it is kind of dominated by keyboards, but I still think it's the best song. There's a bit of, there's one of the tracks I think has quite a bit of piano on it as well, and I do like that. So the piano, and I think the reason, as strange as this may seem, the reason I like the piano on this album more is because when he's playing the piano, the synthesizers and keyboards are toned down, and that makes the album much more pleasurable. So overall, I think it's a strong, well-written album with lots of good guitar and vocals, but the keyboards take away from it a lot. I think on a lot of occasions they kind of drowned out some of that stuff. So anyways, that's my take on the album The World Is a Game by Mystery. So the second album on this battle is Medina Azahara, their self-titled album from 1976 on CBS Records. I think I've already said all this, but the vocals on this are very clear sounding. Almost, to me, they're almost at opposite ends here. I don't want to sound like I'm picking on the vocalist in any way, because I'm not. I think they're both excellent vocalists. It's just that you can hear the guy on Medina Azahara much better than you can Benoit David on the Mystery album. The twin harmony parts are excellent on this album as well. I like the background and almost a reggae-like sounding guitar parts at points during the album. The piano and the guitar solos are really good. They're nice. They're not overplayed, and they're not underwhelming either. They're kind of probably where they should be. The album cover was it had an Egyptian feel to it. To me, it felt like an Egyptian feel, even though it was clearly a cut out time and they were in space somewhere. Not space as in outer space, but in a different space, like maybe in the clouds or something. I'm not quite sure what it was they were doing there, but it's not a bad cover. I think there's some excellent bass and drums on this album. Really catchy beats in a lot of their songs, I find. The keyboards add a lot to the soloing parts, and they do their own solos. Really good stuff as well. I like some of the organ parts, and the synthesizers add to the music quite a bit. The guitar solos are very forward, though. The guitar on this is much more forward than it was on the Mystery album, and his soloing is really good. There are some faster paced rock songs on this as well. There is that slow melodic stuff that you were getting on Mystery as well, but there's a lot more faster paced stuff on this particular album. I like the guitar harmony with the keyboards. They did parts together. They just complemented each other quite a bit, I thought. It's dominated by, there are some parts where it's dominated by guitar solo and some fantastically clear vocals. That's the best part about this. And the drums were dominated at times as well. I think overall, Medina Azahara has much better instrumentation on their album than was on the Mystery album. The music might have been written a little bit better on the Mystery album, but overall I think the execution and the instrumentation and the clarity of sound on the Medina Azahara album was much better. I found it better. Even though the vocals were in Spanish, and I tend to like my vocals in English, but not always, because my first ever Peter Gabriel album was the German version, and I still prefer that one over the English version. So in time, and I had this on the first battle, in time I think those albums would become much stronger. So initially it kind of hurts them a bit because I can't understand what they're saying, but over time I think as I listen to it, I gradually grow to like it, and the language isn't as important, but at this point in time it's still fairly important. But despite the fact that it was in Spanish, and so therefore I didn't understand what they were singing, I still think it was a better overall album for a lot of reasons. And for me, the clarity of sound, the production sound, the use of the keyboards and synthesizers to enhance the music on this album, I think were used much better than they were on the Mystery album, which I think was hammered too much with too much synthesizer and too much keyboard parts in it. And I think if you like that atmospheric kind of symphonic keyboard sounds in your progressive rock, then you will definitely like Mystery much better. But I don't tend to like that as much. I don't mind keyboards and synthesizers, but if they're too dominant, they tend to have a negative effect on me. So for this battle, I've chosen Medina Azahara to go on to the next round, and Mystery will be taking a back seat for the rest of the tournament. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please hit the like button below, subscribe on the side here. Let me know what you think of the two albums. Have you listened to either of these groups? Are they new to you? I found the Mystery one not too difficult to find on the internet. The Medina Azahara one, you have to be careful because there's also a Medina pop artist as well. You have to make sure you put the Azahara in. The album will come up fairly easily, but you got to watch out for the pop album will come up first if you just punch in Medina. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. This one's a bit longer because I was a little bit more involved with the albums. Most of them will be probably a little bit shorter. So have yourself a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow for day 3. Take care.